Imagine this. You wake up one morning with a chilling realization. The life you've been living may not be your own. Every choice you've made, every belief you hold, even the dreams that push you forward. What if they were never truly yours? What if they were planted in your mind by the silent weight of expectations shaped by invisible forces, society, family, fear? How much of your identity is your own, and how much is a carefully sculpted mask molded by the world around you? Think about it. How often do you feel like an actor in a play you never auditioned for? Following a script written by others, performing a role that keeps you safe, accepted, but never truly free. Today we dive deep into one of Carl Jung's most unsettling revelations. Life doesn't truly begin until you find yourself. But what does that really mean? Is self-discovery just about awareness, or is it something far more profound, something that demands a complete unraveling of who you think you are? Stay with me, because as we uncover the hidden forces that have shaped your identity, you'll begin to see why most people never break free, and how you can. And the final realization we'll discuss? It's the most powerful of all, one that could change not just the way you see yourself, but the very way you exist in this world. Carl Gustav Jung wasn't just a psychologist, he was a pioneer, an explorer of the unconscious mind. While others focused on adapting to society, Jung looked beyond. He believed that true psychological growth wasn't about fitting in, but about individuation, the process of becoming your most authentic self. But here's the truth. Most people never take that journey. They remain locked inside a version of themselves built by others. They chase approval, success, validation, believing that somewhere in this endless pursuit, happiness will finally arrive. But beneath it all, a quiet unease lingers. A whisper in the back of the mind that something is missing, and that whisper, it never goes away. Jung believed that life truly begins the moment we stop running from ourselves. But before we can talk about what it really means to find yourself, we must first uncover why most people never do. From the moment we take our first breath, we are shaped, named, defined, assigned roles before we even understand what they mean. We're taught what is acceptable, what is shameful, what earns love, and what invites rejection. This conditioning is so gradual, so insidious, that we rarely question it. We adapt, we conform, and piece by piece we bury the parts of ourselves that don't fit the mold. Think back to your childhood. Can you remember a moment when you were unapologetically yourself, only to be met with judgment? Maybe you were told to be realistic, that you were too sensitive, that certain feelings, dreams, or desires were wrong. So you learned. You learned to hide, to silence the parts of you that didn't fit. And with each act of self-denial, you unknowingly began to build a mask. Jung called this mask the persona. It is the version of yourself you present to the world, the face you wear to navigate society, to gain acceptance, to survive. But here's where the real danger lies. The more you identify with this mask, the further you drift from your true self. You forget that the mask is just a creation, a survival mechanism, and beneath it, something far more raw, far more real, is waiting to be seen. But if the persona is what we show the world, then what about the parts we hide? Enter the shadow. The shadow is everything you've buried, your fears, your forbidden desires, your insecurities, and even your unrealized strengths. You can ignore it. You can suppress it. But it will never disappear. It operates in the dark, shaping your emotions, your reactions, your decisions, all without you realizing it. Have you ever felt an inexplicable dislike for someone? A deep irritation that seemed to come from nowhere? Or have certain traits in others triggered a reaction so strong that it caught you off guard? Jung believed that what disturbs us most in others is often a reflection of something buried within ourselves, something hidden within our own shadow. But what if I told you that within this shadow lies the key to true self-discovery? That the parts of yourself you've rejected are not your enemies, but the missing pieces of your wholeness? The question is, are you ready to face them? Jung's greatest insight wasn't about erasing the shadow, it was about integrating it. True growth doesn't come from pretending your darkness doesn't exist. It comes from standing face to face with it, from acknowledging the parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime running from. Because when you do, you unlock something most people never experience: raw, untamed authenticity. A kind of freedom that no external validation can ever replace. This is where the real journey begins. Are you ready to break free from the illusions that have shaped you? Ready to confront the truth of who you are? Because what comes next will challenge everything you think you know about yourself. And once you see it, you can never go back. Most people move through life believing they already know who they are. They define themselves by their name, their job, their culture, their past experiences. But what if I told you that the identity you cling to is just the surface, a carefully constructed facade, a fraction of something infinitely deeper? Carl Jung believed that within every individual there exists an entire hidden world, a vast, intricate inner landscape filled with forgotten memories, repressed emotions, unspoken desires, and untapped power. The truth of who you are isn't something you create, it's something you uncover. Ask yourself this: have you ever felt an unexplainable longing for something more? A quiet whisper that tells you there is a greater version of yourself waiting beneath the life you are living. That feeling is not your imagination. It is your unconscious mind calling you toward something greater. Jung called this process individuation, the path to true fulfillment. He believed that real happiness doesn't come from fitting in or meeting external expectations. It comes from becoming whole, from integrating every aspect of yourself, the light and the dark, the beauty and the chaos. But here's the reason most people never get there. Because facing yourself is uncomfortable. It means confronting truths you've ignored for years. It means questioning beliefs you've held onto like a lifeline. It means tearing down the walls you built to protect yourself and exposing the wounds that never fully healed. Think about it. How often do we fill every silent moment with distractions? Social media, work, endless entertainment, anything to keep us from being alone with our thoughts. This isn't random. It's a defense mechanism, a way of avoiding the questions that lurk just beneath the surface. But avoidance doesn't make them disappear. No matter how much you try to drown them out, those hidden parts of yourself will always be there, waiting. The question is, will you finally face them? They don't just disappear, they find other ways to surface, through anxiety that tightens around your chest like an invisible hand, through self-sabotage that keeps you stuck in the same painful cycles, through relationships that drain you, leaving you wondering why you always end up here, and through that persistent, gnawing sense that something is missing, that you are lost. Jung believed that the unconscious mind is always speaking to us, but we've been conditioned to ignore its voice, to drown it out with distractions, with noise, with anything that keeps us from truly looking within. But if we start paying attention, really paying attention, patterns emerge. We begin to see how our deepest wounds shape our choices, how our buried desires dictate our behaviors, how the things we fear most often hold the greatest truths. Take something as simple as the fear of rejection. How many people live their entire lives terrified of being judged? They seek approval, avoid conflict, silence their true thoughts just to maintain harmony. But where does that fear really come from? Is it truly about others' opinions? Or is it rooted in something far older, far deeper, an unhealed wound? Maybe it was a childhood moment, a time when they felt invisible, unworthy, unlovable. Jung would argue that this fear isn't just an emotion, it's a shadow, a hidden part of the self, buried because facing it felt unbearable. And until you bring it into the light, it will control you from the dark. But here's the extraordinary thing. When you turn toward the shadow instead of running from it, it loses its power over you. Imagine, just for a moment, what it would feel like to live without fear, to speak your truth without hesitation, to make decisions not based on what others expect, but on what resonates deep within your core. This is the power of individuation. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming fully, unapologetically yourself. But where do you begin? Jung believed that the key to unlocking the unconscious lies in symbols, dreams, and introspection. Dreams, he said, are messages from the deeper self, revealing what we refuse to see in waking life. He saw creative expression, art, writing, music, as ways to access and integrate the hidden aspects of the mind. But perhaps the most important step is this: awareness. The moment you start questioning your thoughts, your reactions, your most deeply held beliefs, you have already begun the transformation. The moment you stop running from discomfort and instead face it with curiosity, you start reclaiming your true self. Because here's the harsh truth. Most people will live their entire lives as strangers to themselves, but you don't have to be one of them. Most people never question the path they walk. They move through life as if on autopilot, following a script written by others, never realizing that at any moment they have the power to rewrite it. They suppress their true nature, believing it makes them safer, more acceptable, never understanding that their greatest strength lies not in hiding, but in embracing every part of who they are. But you don't have to be one of them. You have the power to break free, to strip away the illusions that have held you back, to silence the conditioning and the fear that have kept you from fully experiencing life, to step into the fullness of who you are, unapologetic, unafraid, unstoppable. And in the next part, we dive even deeper into something ancient, something hidden within you. Because buried in your psyche are archetypes, universal patterns that hold the key to unlocking your greatest potential. And what you're about to learn may forever change the way you see yourself. The hidden forces that shape you. If finding yourself were as simple as making a decision, everyone would already be living in perfect alignment with their true nature. But as you've seen, it's not that simple, because this journey isn't just about choosing who you want to be. It's about uncovering what has shaped you, confronting the parts of yourself you've buried, and bringing them back into the light, so that, for the first time, you are whole. But here's the real question. Why do we feel drawn to certain desires, fears, or behaviors? Why do we repeat the same mistakes, even when we know better? Why do certain emotions grip us so intensely that they seem beyond our control? Carl Jung's answer was revolutionary. He believed that within every human being exists a hidden blueprint, a collection of ancient universal patterns embedded deep in the unconscious mind, shaping our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways we barely understand. He called them archetypes. These are not just ideas, they are living forces. Jung believed that archetypes are not personal, they are inherited. They exist in what he called the collective unconscious, a vast hidden reservoir of knowledge passed down from our ancestors. These primal forces don't just shape your identity, they define how you relate to others, how you experience life, and even how you see the world itself. Think about the stories that have been told across centuries: the hero's journey, the wise mentor, the shadowy villain, the innocent child. These figures aren't just characters in myths, religions, and literature. They exist within you. They appear in your thoughts, your dreams, your struggles, guiding you, challenging you, shaping the narrative of your life. And once you recognize them, you will never see yourself the same way again. They are not just myths. They are not just stories. These archetypes, these universal patterns, are alive within you. Whether you realize it or not, they are shaping your thoughts, your emotions, and your decisions every single day. Take the hero. This is the part of you that longs for purpose, that craves growth, that feels the pull toward something greater. It's the force that pushes you to rise, to overcome obstacles, to become the highest version of yourself. But no hero exists without an adversary. And in every journey, there is a shadow. As we explored earlier, the shadow represents the hidden and repressed aspects of your being, your deepest fears, your self-doubt, your pain. But here's the twist. It also holds your greatest untapped power. In mythology, the hero must always face the shadow, whether in the form of a monster, an enemy, or a seemingly insurmountable challenge, before they can evolve. But let's step out of myth and into your life. Have you ever stood at the edge of change, knowing deep down that you needed to step forward, but something inside you resisted? A moment when you had the opportunity to rise, to transform, but fear, doubt, or self-sabotage pulled you back. That is the battle between the hero and the shadow playing out within you. And the mistake most people make? They try to eliminate the shadow, suppress it, bury it. But Jung believed that true transformation doesn't happen through rejection. It happens through integration. The power of embracing your shadow. Let's say you struggle with self-doubt. Most people try to silence it, to push it away, but Jung would challenge you to look deeper. Where does that doubt come from? Is it truly yours? Or was it planted in you by childhood experiences, by society, by the voices of others telling you who you should be? And here's the real question. What if that doubt isn't just a weakness, but a hidden strength? What if, buried within it, is something valuable? Humility, introspection, the ability to see beyond illusions? When you stop seeing your struggles as flaws and start recognizing them as messages from the unconscious, everything changes. Beyond the hero and the shadow. But the battle between the hero and the shadow is just one piece of a much greater puzzle, because within you there are more forces at play. One of the most powerful? The anima and the animus. Jung believed that within every man exists a hidden feminine side, the anima, and within every woman a hidden masculine side, the animus. And once you understand their role, you unlock an entirely new level of self-awareness. But that is where the journey takes an even deeper turn. These forces have nothing to do with gender in the physical sense. They are energies, two opposing yet complementary aspects of the psyche that exist within every human being. The anima represents intuition, emotion, creativity, the deep, fluid connection to the unconscious. The animus embodies logic, structure, discipline, the driving force of will and assertion. When these forces are in balance, a person feels whole, aligned, unstoppable. But when they are out of balance, inner conflict erupts. A man who rejects his anima may suppress his emotions, viewing vulnerability as weakness, shutting himself off from depth, intuition, and true connection. A woman who rejects her animus may hesitate to assert herself, feeling uncertain when taking control, fearing her own power. But here's the truth. What we suppress controls us. What we embrace empowers us. When these energies are not rejected but integrated, they become a source of immense strength, unlocking the full spectrum of who we are. And this brings us to one of the most profound truths Jung ever uncovered. The final piece of the puzzle. To find yourself, you must embrace all of yourself, the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine, the known and the unknown. Because individuation, the path to true self-discovery, is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming whole. But there is one last revelation, one final truth that ties everything together. And it is perhaps the most powerful of all. Because the greatest obstacle to finding yourself isn't just fear. It's not just self-doubt. It's not even the conditioning imposed on you by society. It is something far deeper. Something embedded in the very fabric of how we perceive reality itself. And in the next part, we're going to expose it. What you are about to hear will shatter everything you thought you knew about yourself. It may just change your life forever. The deepest illusion of all throughout this journey, we've peeled back the layers, the masks you wear, the shadow you suppress, the archetypes shaping your mind. But now we must confront the greatest illusion of all, the illusion of self. Most people assume their identity is fixed, that they are a single, unchanging I moving through time, shaped by memories and experiences. But Jung, along with the greatest philosophers and mystics in history, understood something radical. The self is not fixed. It is fluid, ever evolving, far greater than you have been led to believe. So ask yourself, what if the you that you identify with right now is only a fragment of something far larger? What if the person you think you are, your name, your personality, your beliefs, is just one expression of a consciousness that has been evolving for centuries? A consciousness that carries inherited wisdom, ancient instincts, echoes of past experiences you cannot even remember. And if that's true, then who are you, really? Jung explored this profound idea through the concept of the self, not the small, ego-driven self that clings to labels, fears, and limitations, but the true self, the vast, limitless totality of who you are beyond illusion. And this realization, it is both liberating and terrifying, because it means that everything you have believed yourself to be, your fears, your doubts, your identity, the stories you tell yourself, none of it is the full truth. These are merely constructs, temporary frameworks built by the mind to give you a sense of stability. But here's the most powerful truth of all. You are not just a single, isolated being drifting through life. You are a vast, interconnected field of consciousness, carrying within you the wisdom of generations, the depth of the unconscious, and a potential for transformation that is beyond imagination. So, if this is true, why do we feel so limited? Why do we experience suffering, self-doubt, and fear? The illusion of the ego. The answer lies in the ego. But the ego is not your enemy. It is simply the part of the mind that creates a sense of separation. It is the voice in your head that whispers, "This is who I am. This is who I am not." It builds walls, defines borders, keeps you trapped in familiar patterns. And while the ego serves a purpose, helping you function in the world, it is also the greatest obstacle to self-discovery, because in truth you are not limited to a single identity. You are a being in constant evolution, and the moment you stop clinging to the idea of who you think you are, you unlock infinite possibilities. How do you break free? Jung offered a path, but it is not an easy one. It requires courage. It requires deep introspection. It requires a willingness to surrender everything you thought you knew about yourself. But if you are ready, here's where you begin. 1. Embrace the unknown. Most people fear the unknown because it represents uncertainty. But the unknown is where transformation happens. It is where growth unfolds. It is where you become more than you ever imagined. The moment you stop resisting the mysteries within you and lean into them with curiosity, the world and yourself begin to look entirely different. 2. Release attachment to labels. You are not just your name. You are not just your job, your past, or your personality. You are something far beyond definition. When you let go of rigid identities, you create space for something greater to emerge. 3. Listen to the unconscious. Your dreams, instincts, and deep intuitions, they are not random. They are messages from the self, guiding you toward wholeness. The more you tune in, the more you will begin to recognize patterns, synchronicities, and signs leading you toward your true path. 4. Surrender to the process. Finding yourself is not a destination. It is not a goal you reach and then check off a list. It is an ongoing journey, a continuous unfolding, layer after layer, deeper and deeper into the truth of who you are. And here's the ultimate revelation. You were never truly lost. You have always been here. The self you have been searching for has been within you all along, waiting to be remembered. So now, the choice is yours. Will you continue living as a fragment of who you truly are, bound by old fears and illusions, or Will you step forward into the unknown, embracing the vast, limitless being you were always meant to become? Because here's the truth. Life does not truly begin until you find yourself. And now you know the way.